on this rap-ish. I ain't even broke a sweat, homie, this practice. Pondering my next move, staring at my track list. Hope I ain't missing my window. Praying like a Baptist, Seattle's own. Tired of this Game of Thrones. They made a list of the best rappers, and guess who wasn't on? While the disrespect continues, I'm steady packing these venues. Guess if you ain't at the table, you on the menu. And I'm that spitter, baby. They don't want you to see, but everybody's out to Capitol Hill's rocking with me. Boys smoke the trays and ponder getting their life together. I'm comfortable with my role, so I'm like, whatever. I ain't got a job, but I work hard. And you don't work hard, but you got a job. The irony is I'm judged while you feel the applause. I'm slept on, that's why I had to set this alarm. My dudes is armed, I'm armed with this arm charm. Body banging like she got that cream from Barry Bonds. Yeah.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
That Dre season is here, a real hitter with a mic, I'm everything that they fear. With that hood ain't the same, I was all on their ass, I'm level-headed. So yo, my dudes love when I spaz, and I'm so over Seattle's passive-aggressive attitude. They don't call you back, what they really saying is F you. While I'm from the same place, I move at a different pace. I prefer if you just said it to my face, damn, I did it.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it
I hate
for
these
us.
average dudes with they average spit, writing average rhymes, knocking average chicks. The closer I get, I can feel the people starting to shift. I'm loyal to a fault, and everybody can't come with. Rap's a rich man's game, I'm only playing with change. They bang models and singers, I'm knocking my old flame, I'm different. The crowd, I move with the chosen few. Black thoughts, I could be the front man for the roots. No diamonds and gold, I'm on my sticks and stones. If we can see your panty line, you should have on a thong. My team is strong, through this fire we forged a bond. And they already know what it is when I get on. To the hearse, party like it's December 31st. When I'm on my deathbed, I probably cracking my nurse. You ain't got the bars to compete, I'm a verbal athlete. Deflating these boys so they say that I cheat. Damn, I did it.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
Yeah. I should probably start by apologizing for the long wait, man. You know, I know I be tripping. But I'm not just a rapper, I'm an artist. And, you know, my creative process is a little bit different than most. Nonetheless, I want to welcome everybody out to the Dre's Experience. I got TCF in the building. My whole camp's here with me. I got the band in here laying this cool-ass vibe. And I'm Seattle's own. Let's get into it.
I say to you, community, let's take up space. We weren't supposed to make it through the vast Atlantic or back to the door of no return. So shine like the gold in our skin and the first porch light ever lit. 'Cause we lit and we stay lit. It is with love that everything we touch is ablaze with brilliance. We made jazz and had the blues so hard we're still nodding our heads, but this time we sampled What a Wonderful World. What a way to escape the pain and revel in joy. To the Marsha P. Johnsons who woke up our pride. To the Jimi Hendrix who burned his guitar. For the tennis-playing sisters, for those who didn't make it. And I promise not to fake it. We still want our 40 acres, a mule, and reparations. To the barbers and stylists who still carry on tradition. For the laughter through the tough times, the dead and the living that we hold sacred. To be a people who built empires out of sticks and stones and turned the names they called us into songs. We are still here.
All right, we're still here. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Morning Update Show. My name is Omari Salisbury, flying solo today. Trey Holiday has a day off, taking some time. Yeah, there we go. Taking some time there. We got a great show lined up for you today. We got Dr. Carmen Rojas from the Marguerite Casey Foundation talking about philanthropy and supporting academics and higher education. And man, we're going to talk a lot of different stuff about with Dr. Carmen Rojas. Really excited about that. We also got another clip Looking back this year, Jake Graff brought when he visited Zion National Park. So we'll hit that up as well. Man, today, December 21st, this is the shortest day of the year. So the best thing about this, I was on KUOW's Facebook page earlier. They said that like every day until June gets a little bit brighter. So like, you know, in a real sense and hopefully a real sense, today's the shortest day of the year. It's a good thing because after the show, I'm going to go back to bed. I'm going to take full advantage of it. All right. Good morning, everybody. Right now is the perfect time for you to tag and share the stream. Go ahead and tag and share the stream with people who you feel would appreciate culturally relevant news and information emanating from right here in the Emerald City. I want to give a big shout out to our partners over at the South Seattle Emerald and also KBCS 91.3 over at Bellevue College. Want to remind everybody that you can listen to the Morning Update Show anywhere that you listen to your favorite podcast. They got SoundCloud going in over there, but you can also check us out Google, Spotify, iTunes, wherever that you listen to your favorite podcast. All you have to do is search Converge Media Network. The virus is definitely still the top story, which is a whole story in itself. But that being the case, we're putting a link in the comments from Public Health Seattle King County. If you need to get vaccinated or booster shot, or if you're looking for testing information, or maybe you're vaccine hesitant, you still got a lot of questions and things like that, click the link right there. And man, we can get a lot of stuff done. Click that link. Right now, you know, there's a lot of things changing in this landscape around COVID, but Public Health, Seattle King County, definitely a great resource, and especially if you're looking to get vaccinated, looking to get the booster shot for testing, or if you have questions about the vaccine. Man, tomorrow we're getting nut cracking. It's Converge Media Day over there at McCall Hall. We're going to see the Nutcracker, and it looks like Jake Gravbrot's in, so he's going to be going as well, joining us over there. We got a few people who emailed us yesterday, and we're going to be getting back to you today regarding tickets. And I talked to the good people over there at Pacific Northwest Ballet, and they said that they're going to make some more tickets available for some of the shows after Christmas. So if you wanted to reach out, if you wanted to go and see the Nutcracker, we still have some pairs of tickets. This is not for this Wednesday's show, for tomorrow's show, but after Christmas. And really, we're kind of reaching out to people who've never been to the ballet before. And if you wanted to bring a young person, that's also good too. Just email me directly. I'm handling all this myself. Omari, Omari, at whereweconverge.com. If you're interested in going to see the Nutcracker over there at McCall Hall, courtesy of our friends over at the Pacific Northwest Ballet. Looks like we're going to take a quick break right now. I got a handcrafted motion graphic here. When we come back, voila, Dr. Carmen Rojas, CEO of the Marguerite Casey Foundation. You're watching the Morning Update Show.
Hey guys, Besa Gordon here, and before heading to Belize, Trey Holiday and I had to make sure we linked up with our good friends over at Market Street Shoes to, of course, grab a few things for the trip. From bags to socks, shoes, sunglasses, earrings, and more. Before going on any trip, make sure you stop at Market Street Shoes. Trust me, you'll find just what you need to make your trip not only enjoyable, but fashionable.
Yo, and ho. It's Jake from Converge Media here. You know me, I've been getting it outside in some tropical environments lately, but I'm home for the winter and wanted to pass along some tips from the Seattle Department of Transportation to help all of us in these cold weather months. When it snows, and we gotta bet it will, be a good neighbor. Clear your sidewalks near your home, business, or job site. Keep those paths wide enough so a giant like me could walk through them. If you don't have to drive, then don't. Take it from me, I'm a public transit connoisseur in this city. You can get around by bus, light rail, or streetcar all over the region. And when your feet do hit the street, make sure that you slow it down a notch. I'm telling myself this as we speak. Roads and sidewalks can still be slick. If you need more helpful hints, visit the winter weather page at www.seattle.gov/transportation/winter-weather. Stay safe, people. Chill so you can enjoy the chill.
Pacific Northwest Ballet is thrilled to be back on stage with your favorite holiday tradition, the Nutcracker. Brighten your holidays with this timeless tale, performed by PNB's incredible company of dancers to the live magic of the PNB Orchestra, playing Tchaikovsky's classic score. Treat your loved ones to the Nutcracker at Seattle Center's McCaw Hall. Tickets and health and safety information at pnb.org.
These hands bear fruit and witness through muscle and memory to that which cannot be taught. Passing down the blueprint of flowers and wringing waters from the root, bringing nourishment to the masses. There is no grade that can attain the heat that we sustain. A path unclear to most, and still we press on. We flip survival into revival again and again. Be reminded of where you come from, for life is the foundation of every generation.
Welcome back to the Morning Update Show. Yeah, Salman was just saying, he said, this is sick, bro. That's Brady McAtee and Takia T.W. Ward. We were down there in Dangriga, Belize. There were Sable's food products, man. They saw the whole process of making cassava bread. Were you there, Shaylon? Yeah? Did you eat some of the cassava bread? You see, you went, how was it? I like the cassava chips, like the potato chips they were making. Yeah, no, it's fire. So, you know, what we're doing right now, we got so much amazing footage from Belize. We got a bunch of actually show segments coming out in early 2022. Just giving you guys some teasers there, though. That was a real sharp one, right? Yeah, I like that. Good job, Brady. All right, ladies and gentlemen, right now, we're going to welcome Dr. Carmen Rojas from the Marguerite Casey Foundation to the Morning Update. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you, Omari?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
Thinking a lot about these cassava chips. I don't know. In Fremont, there's a place called Paseo, and they really throw down on a good cassava chip. If you're looking for a neighborly piece of yuca, there's one that exists closer than Belize.
Let's see, like you know how to you get down. Sound like you get down on the cassava there, right?
Oh, I do. 1,000%. 1,000%.
All right, good stuff. Good stuff. Well, again, welcome to the Morning Update Show. And first of all, I think that we'll just pitch it out to you, and you can tell everybody a little bit about yourself and the Marguerite Casey Foundation.
Sure. Thanks again for having me here today. Marguerite Casey Foundation is almost a 20-year foundation that works to shift the balance of power in communities that have long been neglected and have not long been excluded from having it. So at our core, what we do is support community organizers across the country who are seeking not only to have a voice at the table, but to shape the rules of the table that are focused on our democracy and our economy.
So what are some of the types of things that you guys support? I know you've just spoken in general sense, but maybe you could drill it down a bit.
Yeah, we actually run a whole gamut. We fund a number of efforts that are seeking to shift public spending away from policing and towards public safety that doesn't require police in any which way, shape, or form. We support efforts in the Southwest and in the South more broadly that are really focused on voter engagement, voter participation, and calling out those ways that our current political and economic system actively exclude folks from these processes that are key to shaping their day-to-day lives. A very concrete example is that we've been doing a lot of work on the American Recovery Plan, on ARPA, and looking at places like Alabama, where they're planning on using the full weight of those resources just for prison construction, supporting organizers in places like Alabama to push back on elected officials who are misusing public funds that should be actually used to reset the table for public good. Is that helpful, Mari?
Yeah. No, we got you good over here. It's interesting you bring up that case there in Alabama. We actually covered that on our show Clapback Culture some months ago.
Yeah.
And they were talking about how people are going to jail for misusing the recovery funds, the PPP loans and everything else. And so individuals are going to jail, but the state of Alabama is taking the funds to build a prison. And then they're saying that that's part of recovery, right? Wasn't that story?
That was the case that the governor is trying to make. I think that there are other things, like with PPP, we've seen like so many corporations, multinational corporations, take advantage of this benefit that was really meant to shore up small and medium-sized businesses, and then get called out after the fact. But they didn't go to jail, right? The CEOs and the shareholders of those companies didn't go to jail. That was not an option. And so one of the things that we're hoping to do on the one side is to say that this is, what promises to be one of the largest public investments that we'll see in our lifetimes. And on the other side, to make very clear that public investment actually has to go to the people who make this country true, right? Like to Black folks, to Indigenous folks, to folks of color, that we don't need to see continued investment into the top 1% who continue to hoard wealth at the rest of our expense.
Right. And now you kind of came on our radar here because one of your award programs actually went to one of the professors out at the University of Washington. Maybe you can talk more about that award that went out there and the kind of work that they are doing, and just fill us in.
Sure. So we launched a program called the Freedom Scholars Program, really meant to support scholars who are reimagining what our country can look like. And these are leading abolitionists, leading scholars thinking about what it means to take land back. They are scholars that are doing research on everything from reparations to looking at the implications of technology on Black folks and communities of color, like the surveillance mechanisms. And we actually have two freedom scholars that are from Seattle. One is Angelica Chazarro, and the other one is Megan Ming Francis, both of whom are leading scholars and organizers. And I'll say the thing that makes freedom scholars so exciting and important to me is that we know that ideas matter, right? Like the right wing in this country, white supremacists, spend a whole lot of time normalizing a set of ideas that then become normal. And for more progressive people, for people who are imagining a country where we all belong, where freedom is a possibility, those resources don't tend to exist. And so in starting my role at Marguerite Casey Foundation, we launched Freedom Scholars really to acknowledge this idea that there are people out in the world putting key ideas about our future into the universe, and that they're working hand in hand with community-based organizations, with organizers, with local electeds who are seeking to actually create some evidence that we can have a different country. For Angelica specifically, like her work focused on Decriminalize Seattle has been really critical. And so we see this as like our small recognition, our small award that we can do in partnership with another Seattle-based foundation, Group Health Foundation, to recognize this, not only these scholars, but the importance of these ideas and scholarship in the world.
Right. And people here in Seattle that followed everything from last year, from the protest on through, that's where that name, Angelica, rings a bell, because we saw her all over the different research and things that were going in behind Decriminalize Seattle, and a lot of the efforts around defund and everything else. It was a lot of the research that she was doing that they based a lot of their arguments on.
That's exactly right. And so that's the thing that we are trying to do, is we're trying to support groups of scholars at a time that range from, again, Megan at UW, who studies the role that philanthropy plays in destructing mass-based social movements, to people like Angelica, mostly to like tether them to each other, but also to create recognition for the fact that these ideas matter, that their ideas matter.
And well, and I'm glad actually, I mean, it's bad Trey's not here, but it's also good in the sense that we get to have an expanded discussion here, because I got lots of questions.
Oh, let's go.
But before we get into some of these questions, we do have a video over here, I think, that you guys sent over that tells a little bit more about this award program.
Great.
I study young people because they are inspiring. I believe in the collective power of young people to demand justice, to build movements that reimagine the world, that reimagine our relationship to each other, as well as the planet. And because young people are willing to engage in struggle that moves us closer to liberation, that moves us closer to true freedom and joy.
There we go. All right, back.
I love this Kathy Cohen. Kathy Cohen is really, I don't know if you know Kathy's story, but she was one of the leading both scholars on youth organizing in the Black community nationally, but in Chicago, and helped lead the creation of BYP 100, which is one of the nation's leading young Black organizing groups. Every time I see one of these videos, I feel like I have to add like an editorial line about how much I love these people.
Sure. Now, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Especially you talking about philanthropy and everything else. What strings are, because I just be honest with you, right? And this is where, a lot of times people are like, oh, Converge, you guys should be a nonprofit and stuff like that. And first of all, we really want to inspire young Black entrepreneurs. You know what I'm saying? So, we tough it out. We could probably, if we were a nonprofit, we'd probably be in a very different financial position right now. But we're not. But a lot of times in the nonprofit world, man, strings come attached. So what strings are coming attached to these awards? Because you're over here talking about these awards and these professors and everything else. What obligations are you putting on them?
None. So as a grant maker, generally, this is like precedes me in this role. We really prioritized multi-year general operating support, meaning that if you were a nonprofit organization that received support from Marguerite Casey Foundation, you could use those resources for what you saw fit in your organization, in your community, and for the people you serve. Be it, I understand, like, some folks need to pay rent, need to pay for lights, need to pay for like the most basic infrastructure to keep their doors open. And so on our general grant making, we are a multi-year general operating support funder. There are no strings attached. On the award side for the Freedom Scholars, similarly, it's a one-time award of $250,000 that the scholars can use for whatever they want. And we actually just had a call with the set of new Freedom Scholars and last year's Freedom Scholars. And what was so striking to me was to hear the range of uses that people found for this money. Barbara Ransby helped start this portal project that was actually bringing together activists and scholars to imagine a portal to a just and free future. There are a number of Freedom Scholars that were able to like buy a home for the first time. A number of Freedom Scholars whose parents live in places of war and conflict, and they were able to support them. I would say like the common through line in terms of how they chose to use these resources was that people gave money to organizations. Like, people were like, this is a gift, and I want to make sure that I am also paying it forward. So we're like, I think we're an anomaly in this case, Amari, in terms of like how we're structured and the things that we expect. At its core, maybe at its best, philanthropy and philanthropic resources should be used for experimentation, right? Like, we have accountability to the communities at the center of our mission. We have accountability to the IRS to get out this money. But like, I can't say that this $250,000 or any size award that we or grant that we give out can be attributed, like success. The success on the ground can't be attributed to us. That seems like a silly thing. People find ways to fight with or without philanthropy. I mean, you find ways to do your
Yeah.
work with or without
I,
philanthropy.
I will say this is that the other thing is what a lot of like grants and stuff like that, for at least for small organizations that I explained that here at Converge, we literally spend all of our time creating the widgets, right? You know, creating our product, putting everything out. So we don't have the time or the resource to go for this grant, that grant, this, whatever, everything. So that's another reason why we've been like, but I did want to take 1 second here, since we're talking about philanthropy and everything else. I got to give a big shout out to the Group Health Foundation. And I bring that up. It was last year during the middle of the it was spunky up there in the Seattle protest. And those guys saw we didn't have no gas masks, we didn't have any protective equipment, we didn't have anything. And they just called and said, "Hey, you guys are in crisis. We're here to help you today." And in one day, they made a donation. And that's actually what bought all these cameras. How it looks so nice and everything on the camera. That all came directly from them. And they just stepped in and said, "Hey, you guys are in crisis. Let's cut everything else out here. Here's how we can help you immediately." That's not usually the case in the way that philanthropy works, not only in this city or anywhere else. And I bring that up because we have an overlay here as well, where you've at times been critical of, there it is, you were in the Seattle Times earlier this year. You've been critical in the way that sometimes philanthropy on the big level is guiding. Basically, it's people are socially engineering through philanthropy, or they're pushing their agenda through philanthropy, and you kind of push back on that, huh?
Yeah, and I will actually back to Group Health. So, like, Nicole Drew Maher, for me, is a guiding light for what a philanthropic leader can do, should do, and will do in service of liberation. There's like never, and I'm so proud that we get to partner together on the Freedom Scholars. She just makes it easy. And I think sometimes people believe that to make it easy, your institution has to be small. Group Health Foundation is more than $2 billion. It's a $2 billion institution, right? And so what she continues to demonstrate through her work, through her leadership, through her team at Group Health is the way that there are like invented rules that philanthropy chooses to abide by. But when you choose not to abide by these invented rules and frankly get money to people on the front lines of the causes that are at the center of your mission, for us, it's racial justice. For us, it's a commitment to liberation. If that becomes the focus of your work, that's the best impact you can have.
Right. And do you feel that, sometimes here I attend some of these meetings and they call it the nonprofit industrial complex and things like that. And we've even seen some protests against different philanthropic organizations here. Like, what is it that other organizations could be doing better? I'm clearly, maybe their heart's in the right place. They want to give, but what is it they could be doing better?
Make it easy to get money. That seems like the thing that I am consistently surprised by, Amari, is how hard people who say and have a duty to give out money, how hard they make it to actually happen. The reporting process. Boulay, who's also in Seattle, has an amazing Twitter feed and blog called Nonprofit AF, and it's amazing, like the strange hurdles that we want people who are fighting for the future that we want to go through in order to access a nominal amount of money. And so for me, they're like 3 or 4 easy things. One, make it easy to get money. So reduce the application process, bring that all internally, connect the information that you need, and anything else that you want to collect, make it the burden of your staff to collect it. Like, I hear you, and like the application process for a number of people, it's a full-time job just to apply for resources. I think the second thing is to be responsive. Like we sit in these positions where we have proximity to something that people need, money. And oftentimes we can tell ourselves a story about how important we are. And I just don't think that that's the job. I think the job is to respond. It's to take the telephone call. It's to hear and to be clear whether or not you are or are not going to fund something. Like that in between space is another way that foundations often waste people's time. Thirdly, and sort of to come full circle to your point about your choice in not becoming a nonprofit is really for foundations to use the full weight of their resources in service of their mission. We give out 5.5% of our money, but the balance of our money, we're an investor. So what does it look like to invest in entrepreneurs, to invest in funds, to invest in ideas that we believe truly align with our commitment to liberation?
Right. And when we talk about here, this it seems like Seattle, especially right now, and with the events of last summer, the murder of George Floyd, that people are there seems to be more of a willingness along philanthropic organizations. Some have already been there, and it's just more, on the radar now. Other ones are like, "Hey, we need to figure out something. We need to put money somewhere." But sometimes what we see is mission creep around philanthropy, meaning that, like, I know people who was doing one thing a year ago, but because the philanthropy and the money is now over here, they've changed a lot of their core ideas, their beliefs, and everything else to now creep over here to where the resource is at. Do you find like mission creep out there when you're visiting or talking to some of these organizations that need that to get resources? They've kind of crept away from some of their original mission and plans.
Yeah, I'm gonna put it on the inverse. Like what I see is a say-do gap, right, in philanthropy, where after the murder of George Floyd, I'm sure you remember hundreds of thousands of statements made about the need to invest in Black leaders, the need to examine our relationship to policing and the criminal punishment system. Every statement, everybody had a statement about these things. And so as those statements came out, I think a number of organizations who are trying to raise money made a rational choice, which is, God, I want to raise money having to do with entrepreneurship. I want to raise money having to do with K through 12 education, and saw this as an opportunity. I will note that, like, on the money side, there's like the foundation side and the organization side. On the foundation side, all of the words did not result in a true material shift in resources to any kind of organizations. So it wasn't that organizations that were coming out talking about entrepreneurship or coding or whatever it was, organizations that weren't talking about policing got a whole bunch of money. It was that we actually did not see a market shift from all of these people who committed to giving money, who committed to ceding power, who committed to yielding their platforms in service of a vision of what felt like at that moment, like Black liberation. None of that happened. So I think there's two sides of the coin that you're describing, Omari. And on one side, on the organization side, I give a lot of grace for people who are trying to make payroll.
Oh yeah, hold on. Let me jump in here
Oh, yeah.
right here. So believe me, when you talk about grace for people trying to make payroll, 100%. Because man, I faced that. Man, look at these guys looking like, man, Friday we getting paid, right? because every other Friday it's in there, and so like I just want to be clear. I'm not demonizing anybody who's, you know what I'm saying, who's out there searching for the resource. What I'm saying though is that the difficulty sometimes to be able to get the resources for the lane that you're in, people now have to shift lanes to go and be where the resources are at.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And money still isn't going to these communities, to these issues, to these leaders. Like overwhelmingly, like there have been a number of like a year in the past reflections after the summer of 2020. And what the data tells us consistently is that there was a lot of saying, a lot of words organized around a belief that Black liberation should be an animating force for the future of our democracy and our economy. But there just wasn't a lot of doing by the people who sit on the most amount of resources and power.
Yeah, like with us, I told people, like advertisers that aren't already advertising with us or that aren't already make a plan. I said, man, don't hit us up third week in January and going into February, because traditionally that's always been the gimme ads for big organizations, whether it's government or companies, and you get a Martin Luther King ad, you know what I'm saying? We used to believe in the dream, and then you get a Black History ad. And I was like, man, y'all can keep all of that. You know what I'm saying? We're not ready. That's not what we're here for, is to prop you up to so you have your feel good ad that you say that you spent some money with some Black folks and you got something to say Martin Luther King, but the rest of the year Black advertisers are locked out. The rest of the year, there's no resources that are coming through. So, it's Converge. How we do anything is how we do everything. So if you only want to talk to us when you got a Martin Luther King ad or you got a Black History ad, you can keep it.
Yeah. No, I mean, I feel like that's one of the opportunities or like the gifts that I see in this job is to actually highlight and push against that. Like, name the contradiction, name what feels like the absurdity that we are entering and holding, the year 2022, and you are still having these types of interactions, which for me are a different type of racism, right? Like it's the racism that isn't invested in you entirely, but that's invested in you only when it's convenient for their company, and to practice and do different things. Like, again, I'm going to go to Nicole and Group Health Foundation. I feel like they have been at the forefront. She's like a year ahead of me, right, in her role. And so I've been learning so much about how she sees using and being a steward of these resources as being deeply tied to a liberatory, like a freedom function for us.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, in that space, and I just remember like now that we're talking about this, I was getting really just bombarded in a good way, well-intending people like, man, because some people just assumed that we was out there covering the protest off of a grant or off of this and that. I was like, nah, it's just us. We just out here for our neighborhood. We ain't got, nothing. That's why we were out there totally unprepared for what we were facing out there. But, as the summer dragged on, people would be hitting me up and they'd be like, oh man, you gotta, like I said, talk to this foundation, talk to this, do this and that. And when you talk about that barrier to entry, and that would always be my conversation. I'd be like, man, can't you just have somebody call me, dog? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, let me just talk to them on the phone. I can't sit here on a computer and, we're already sleeping like maybe 2-3 hours a day. I'm like, I can't sit here on this computer. And some other people, and our situation was extreme, maybe compared to other people or whatever. But you're right. When it's like, maybe the dynamics of this whole process could switch up some across that whole philanthropy side of things, because so much of the burden really is on the people like us who are making the widgets all day long.
Yeah, and doing the work. It's not even making the widgets. I feel like in part it's making the widgets, but it's also telling the story. It's creating room for another possible future. Like what you're doing is like resetting and recasting the future and the story that is often told about Seattle, right? Like that Seattle is only white, that Seattle is only tech, that only rich people live in Seattle. There's like a story, an imaginary that actually benefits a small handful of people in perpetuating that story. And what you are doing is not only creating the widgets to do the show, but also doing the show to invite us to imagine a different possible reality that's true for hundreds of people in the city.
Man, it looks like we could have this conversation for a while. This is real interesting. We don't, you know what I'm saying? I mean, we talk to people who represent different philanthropic groups, but it's usually from, you know, that forward facing. This is the first discussion that I think that we've had when we're talking about the guts of it.
Oh, let's
You know,
do it.
and yeah, and the behind the scenes and everything else. We're going to let you go, but is there anything else that you want people to know about the Marguerite Casey Foundation and your work?
Yeah, know that we are here in Seattle. Know that we are a Washington-based grant maker and are committed to building relationships, getting to know you. You know, I am 18 months, as I mentioned, into this job. And so please call on us and check out the Freedom Scholars. I think it's such an exciting project that we have been able to launch in partnership with Group Health Foundation. And thank you, Omari. Like, this has been such a great time to get to know you better.
No, thank you too. You're welcome back anytime. We'd love to hear about the progress that the Marguerite Casey Foundation is making. We'll catch you next time. All right.
All right. Bye.
All right, everybody. We're going to take a quick break right now. When we come back, we look back at the best of 2021 when Jake Gravbrot visited Zion National Park. You're watching the Morning Update Show.
These hands bear fruit and witness through muscle and memory to that which cannot be taught. Passing down the blueprint of flowers and wringing waters from the root, bringing nourishment to the masses. There is no grade that can attain the heat that we sustain. A path unclear to most, and still we press on. We flip survival into revival again and again. Be reminded of where you come from, for life is the foundation of every generation.
Zion National Park, one of Utah's mighty five, anchors the southwest corner of Utah, located only a few hours' drive from Las Vegas and just down the road from Bryce Canyon National Park. The second largest national park in the state of Utah, it's deceiving in size due to the narrow nature of Zion Canyon itself, that the entire park spans a total of 147,237 acres, making it the 36th largest national park in America. Zion itself is a cornucopia of landscapes, including mountains, canyons, buttes, mesas, monoliths, rivers, slot canyons, and natural arches. I'd been through Utah on many road trips before, but never explored the park itself. In February, I set out to change that. It almost didn't happen. My flight out of Seattle nearly didn't make it to Las Vegas, meeting with constant delays due to a snowstorm that began dumping flaky white stuff all over the Pacific Northwest barely 36 hours before my flight. By the time I was set to fly, my flight had already been pushed back 3 times. My 2-day trip to Zion was now only going to be 1, once my flight finally made it off the runway. Due to the delay, my itinerary was going to have to be cut down, and I decided to accomplish only one thing: hiking Angel's Landing, one of the most dangerous hikes in the national park system. The trail leading up to Angel's Landing is mostly uphill, through canyon and switchbacks before coming out at Scout Lookout, which shows magnificent views of Zion Canyon itself. But I didn't come for that view. I came for the last half mile, treacherously winding up to Angel's Landing itself. I came to conquer a lifelong fear of heights. I came to prove to myself that I was good alone, that I was able to stare down the things that had kept me from fully experiencing life in the way that I want to. I came knowing that at any point I could make a misstep and that would be it. The last half mile to the top has the most severe drop-offs that I've ever experienced, with slim walkways and only a set of chains to help guide you along the path. Since 2000, it is listed that 13 people have died on this hike, and tragically, a man died only a week after I visited. As I made it up this trail and found myself staring out at the full expanse of Zion Canyon from nearly 1,500 feet above the canyon floor, I felt a wave of emotion run through my body. I did it. I told myself that this was the year that I would let go of my fears, that I'd stare down all that had ever held me back. This was the start of my journey, but nowhere near the end.
Jake Grabrot right there, GTFO, Zion National Park in Utah, and Angels Landing. And I talked to Jake Grabrot. Jake told me that 19 people have died trying to get up there to the top of Angels Landing. And the name of that segment right there is actually Facing Fears. And you heard Jake talk about that, man. And the way that he explained it is, you know, I mean, you saw right there, it's like it's sheer, right? And, you know, usually Jake has a camera in his hand, but he needed both his hands on that one. So he had the GoPro there on the top of his head. We're going to be posting a lot of the highlights from GTFO Season 1 and getting ready for GTFO Season 2. Really excited about that. We got a bit of a short show today. We're going to end a bit early. Like I said, Trey Holiday is out today. But what a great conversation that we had there with Dr. Carmen Rojas of the Marguerite Casey Foundation and the work they're doing. Let's see, Tuesday. Anything going on tonight? I think we're good. All right. In that case, everybody, I want to remind you, go forward in your purpose, go forward in your humanity, and until tomorrow at 11 a.m. Peace.
Lift every voice and sing till earth in heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing
song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun.